A few weeks ago, I dug a hole at the beach. I just started digging. Eventually, I got in and I let the sand bury me. And I genuinely cannot tell you the last time I felt that free. And then again this morning, I woke up and I spent 2 hours on Instagram and I don't even know what I was looking for. Both of those things are me. And this episode is about the distance between those two parts and why I think that this gap is actually the most honest thing I can share right now.
Welcome to Grow with the Flow. This is your space for open, honest, and real conversations about life. We dive into personal growth, meaningful connections, and embracing your truth. So, if you're looking for inspiration, a fresh perspective, or just a space to connect, you're in the right place. Let's grow with the flow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Grow with the Flow. I want to give you a little update on how life has been for me recently. This is the Hội An chapter, if you want. 4 years into the new year and to this journey of leaving Malta and stepping into the unknown, I thought it was a good opportunity to share where I'm at today. I think the journey started going to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was lovely, so beautiful, a little bit chaotic, especially the local buses. If you've been to Sri Lanka, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it also was chaotic because, I just left Malta, visited the family in Germany, and came here, to Sri Lanka without a clear plan. So I was as chaotic as those buses. And I really needed to find some clarity in my life. And I think that Sri Lanka became a great place on showing me what I don't want in my life. For example, I don't want to constantly move in between apartments and locations. I don't want to live in a place where I don't have a proper kitchen set up and storage where I can put my clothes so I could feel like I actually live in a place instead of having a suitcase where I need to live out of. And roughly 2 months into the journey in Sri Lanka, I went to Bali, back to Bali, where I've first went 3 years ago to expose myself on that anxiety journey. And I've loved coming back to Bali since then. And Bali was exactly what I needed. Well, what I thought I needed. I went there to do an acro yoga training and I had the dance community, the tantra community, and friends around me. But I think it became a mirror for a very different problem, and that is distractions that were dressed up as connection. Because I noticed that it's very easy to be overwhelmed with all of these opportunities and all of these things that are happening. So instead of using those as an opportunity to just enjoy yourself and connect with others, I realized that it became a distraction. Because at that point, I had no anchors in my life. I had no proper routine. I had no job. I had no relationship. I felt very ungrounded. And first, I didn't know why. So when I decided to go to Hội An, I knew I wanted to be here focusing on myself, exactly on those things, because I wanted solitude. And what I got was, within a few days, I felt lonely. Big surprise. So the first few weeks here in Hội An were pretty rough. The loneliness came with, choosing to be alone. But I was still feeling lost, overwhelmed. And within the first few days, I was ready to leave. But then I realized I came here for me. But being with me was uncomfortable. Stepping out of your comfort zone, you'd think that you can anticipate that, because it turns out outside of the comfort zone sometimes feels very uncomfortable. But what kept me here was the feeling that I knew I came here for a reason and I came here to reconnect with myself. And I didn't know it yet, but I knew that staying was the whole point. So then I started building a routine. These anchors that I realized that I was missing in Bali, I knew I would have to build them here. So I didn't set out to just build a routine. I just started by doing one thing, and then another, and then another. So the key things I wanted to focus on was making sure I drink enough water, I sleep enough, I eat clean, and I move my body. Once I've done that, I started introducing breath work into my routine. And then eventually felt like I wanted to take ownership of my mornings. So I was moving my body and eventually going to a cafe, journaling, reading, eventually found inspiration to write poems again. So these were things I could add on once I've built somewhat of a stable routine that allowed me to just like sleep well, drink enough water, and then, move my body. And what I've really learned is that consistency isn't glamorous. It's really just about showing up for yourself again and again and again, especially on days when it feels rough, like it was for me this morning. And eventually it stops being so hard. That doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, right? You still have mornings where it will feel difficult. Maybe you didn't sleep well and suddenly you feel like the idea of waking up and doing a workout or whatever isn't the first thing that comes to mind. But you take it easy. This morning I decided to take a step back and go out and go to a cafe and relax and just take it easy and be a bit soft with myself. And the plan is to go to the gym later in the day, to do it without stress, right? Because what I've realized is I often ran on a list of shoulds, on things that I should be doing, on, I should do my breath work in the morning, I should do yoga. But sometimes, when you feel like you should be doing something, this aliveness went out of it. So I tried to build something that helped me, and now I'm learning that even the things that save you can become a cage if you're doing them to perform rather than to feel. So I had to learn to be a little bit more flexible and kind with myself. That sometimes it wasn't yoga that I needed in the morning, but a different movement, some stretching in different ways, or lifting weights, or going for a swim, or digging a hole, actually. So what I noticed, what made this possible for me, was witnessing things around me and noticing things finally again. It's driving through the rice fields here amidst all the palm trees, buying fresh mangoes from the markets, the mango tree outside of my house, some cows that often wander just into my garden. And witnessing and noticing those things really allowed me to slow down. And as I started to join the contact improv scene here, I met one guy who was so incredibly playful. And it was so amazing to witness him, how much joy he had. And we had one contact improv workshop in the ocean, and he was there early, and he was just digging a hole. And I felt like, I think it was one day later when I felt like I want to dig a hole. So we met again and we were just digging a hole. And I couldn't remember the last time I was digging a hole, and God, it felt incredible. Because it allowed me to just stop worrying about anything else. You just do something that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel playful, and you don't worry about performing so much and what others might think. Because for me, it really became a performance trap, right? And what's actually underneath this? It feels like everything I love eventually becomes something I had to be good at. I felt like the podcast needs listeners. The retreats I work on, they need to be successful, right? They need to sell tickets. And my morning needs to be incredibly productive. And even the poems I started writing, they needed to be super clever and beautiful. Brilliant even. But the thing is, I left a career in corporate that was full of performance pressure. It was all about metrics and compliance and results and to-do lists and deadlines, and without realizing it, I've rebuilt the same structure in my life around my passions now. It even got to the point where I'm witnessing people around me that are maybe living the life that I would love to live, that I would work towards, and I've started feeling jealousy. It's almost like I want to be where they are. And I started comparing our journey instead of creating my own. Instead of maybe looking at their journey as an inspiration, maybe even looking at their experiences as an opportunity to learn, ask questions. I'm not even sure that I perform for anyone specific. I think I'm performing for a version of myself that doesn't exist yet. Maybe a version of me that has figured it out. And I'm just feeling exhausted trying to get there. Well, I think my nervous system is pretty flooded these days. And maybe I'm reaching for something easy to achieve, easy to get, I don't know. Well, one thing that is becoming clear is I haven't figured it out yet, whatever that means. My journey is still going on, and as the podcast, sets out and invites, is for you to come along on my growth journey. What I've noticed is what it means to feel like I'm starting to like who I am. I'm someone who's very mindful, caring. I can be very present and curious. Recently, I've been very playful. So I want to give myself credit for doing something that is genuinely hard, which is starting over and staying in situations that are uncomfortable. A year ago, I talked to myself in ways that were incredibly harsh and hurtful. I talked to myself in a way that I wouldn't let a stranger talk to me. And that's changed. This morning, on the way to the cafe, I told myself, take it easy, don't stress it. Enjoy this morning, relax, read something, journal, and just let the day unfold. And how I'm meeting my challenges now, I think, is becoming a huge sentiment to the work that I've been doing. Because now I can recognize challenges around me and this trouble, but I'm able to stay relaxed in it and be a lot more calm as I'm processing it. So yeah. It's an ongoing journey. And even in moments when I feel like things are improving and I'm feeling better and better, and as I set out this routine and I will put some more details of my routine in the show notes and share some details around it to see what helped me. You still have to recognize that sometimes it's one step forward and two steps back, but that's all part of the journey. So maybe let me pass that question on to you. When did you last do something with zero performance pressure? When you did it not for the outcome, but just because it felt good in your body. And on the other hand, where is maybe a situation in your life where you do feel that performance pressure? You feel like there's an invisible audience that you're performing for instead of just doing it for yourself. Well, this is it for today. I thank you very much for listening. And as always, I invite you to follow your intuition, do everything with love, and just see where it takes you.